Welcome back, my dear students. I hope that all of you are fine and healthy. So, students, in the part 1 video of story writing, we have learned several things about a story. We have learned the different elements of a story. We have learned about plot, we have learned about the characters, we have learned about setting of the story, we have learned about the climax situation, we have learned about the resolution. So now in this part, that is the part 2 video, we are going to learn how to write a story. So just look at this picture. Story. S is for the setting. It tells us when and where. And these things you have previously learnt also. This is just a recapitulation. T is for talking characters, the whom, which we compare. O is for oops, a problem, the conflict which evolves. That means the conflict which will come in the plot of the story. R is for resolution, the steps for us to solve the problem. And Y is for yes, oh, the solution has been found. So you need to observe the sequence in the plot and the elements all around. So I hope that all of you understand this one. So as whatever things we have learned earlier in the previous video, like the elements of story, the characters, the situation, the setting, the problem, the climax situation, the resolution, all these things and all these elements we need to use while writing a story. So today I am going to discuss those writing rules. So we have learned that in a story or while writing a story, you will get a setting, you will get some characters, maybe one character, you may get the protagonist or the antagonist, you may get some outline. So whenever you need to write a story, you will get some outline. So generally whenever you are going to write the story, you will get outlines or hints, and you need to develop those outlines into a readable story. Just look at these rules. You need a main character. You need to hatch a plot. Hatch a plot means you need to make a plot out of those outlines. Those were given there. Give your main character a problem. Develop your plot by asking what if or what will happen. Write what you know. Build suspense. Make sure your story comes alive by using all your 5 senses. And the last one, the main character must solve his or her own problem. So these are some basic rules that you need to keep in your mind while writing a story. That you need a main character, you need to make your plot too much or so much interesting, you need to give a problem to your main character, or there may be a conflict between the main character or the protagonist or the antagonist. You need to develop your plot step by step. You need to know whatever things you have learned from the outlines. You need to build a suspense and make sure that everyone enjoys your story, and the main character must solve his or her problem. So how to outline a short story or a story? Turn your short story idea into a real work of fiction. Follow the guide below to plan your short story. Step 1. Decide on a protagonist. That means you need to first of all fix who is the main character by looking at the outlines. The protagonist is your main character, and the person all the interesting stuff happens to. Step 2. Decide on a setting. Setting is the place where your story happens. Step 3. Decide on a goal or problem. This is what motivates your protagonist and creates the conflict that makes your story interesting. So this way you can start, like your protagonist name and description, what he or she wants to achieve or goal what happens at the climax and what happens at the end. Problem or goal, that is what your protagonist wishes to achieve or avoid. Rising action challenges the protagonist's experiences in trying to get what he or she wants. Climax, the protagonist either succeeds or fails to reach the goal. And you need to remember one more thing, that is, in any story, whenever you are going to make up the plot or whenever you are going to hatch the plot for your story, at that time you have to remember these three things, that your plot has the beginning, the middle, the end. The beginning means where you introduce the characters, set the scene. Scene means where that situation or where that particular event is happening, and set up the problem. And the middle, in which the hero has to deal with the problem. And finally, you need to come to the end, where the characters sort out the problem, whether the character can sort out or they can't, and finally the story finishes. That means the resolution part of your story. So while hatching the plot, remember that the plot has the beginning, the plot has the middle part, and also your plot has the ending part, that is the resolution part. So these things you need to keep in your mind whenever you are going to write the story. Now, while hatching the plot, everyone wants to know that how you can make your plot interesting, so that the reader who is reading your story, that person or that reader will get interest to read more about your story. So in order to make your story interesting, you need to increase your story's tension. Tension in the sense, the anticipation of what will happen next in a story. That you may call in easy language, you need to build up suspense. So that may be called in easy language suspense. So don't let your characters have what they want. 2 number, ask how you can make your character's situation odds. 3, build flaws and conflict into your setting or story world. 4, create conflict between your characters. 5, increase the consequences of failure for the hero. So by following these 5 ways, you can create suspense. And the more you will create suspense in your story, the more your story will become interesting. So I hope you can understand. Now I will again make you learn something about the plot. In the previous video, that is in the part 1 video, I told you that a plot of the story, this plot has 5 parts. First of all, the exposition. Exposition means we meet the characters and the primary situation. Then after exposition, rising action, narrative and dramatic tension build. Finally, climax, where the tension peaks. And then falling action, narrative and dramatic tension ease. That is when it is in the comfort zone. And resolution, finally the resolution, the story comes to a close or the story comes to an end. So I hope that you can understand that how you need to hatch your plot. Whenever you will get your outlines before writing the story, you need to first of all set the exposition. That means you need to introduce your characters, set up the primary situation. Then you have to go towards the rising action. That means you need to build up the tension. And in the climax part, the tension peaks, then falling action, and finally the resolution. Just look at this story. This is an example. This is a story of the 3 little pigs. Exposition. 3 little pigs leave home to find adventure in the big world. Then the pigs come across a beautiful clearing they think will be a perfect spot to build their homes. Then Pig 1 builds a house of straw, Pig 2 builds a house of sticks, and Pig 3 builds a house of bricks. And after that, what happened? One big bad wolf blows the straw house down, and the Pig 1 escapes to Pig two's house. Then the big bad wolf blows the stick house, and then pick one and pick two escapes to pick three's house. Then the big bad wolf tries several times, but he cannot, or he can't blow down the brick house. And finally, what happened to the climax situation? The wolf decides to sneak down the chimney to get the pigs, but the wolf falls into the boiling pot of soup. And resolution, the big bad wolf is so scared. So this way you need to hatch the plot of your story. Now another example. Develop the following outlines into a readable story and suggest a suitable title and a moral also. Just look at the outlines. Holding a piece of meat in his mouth, a dog wanted to eat it in a quiet place. Then he had to cross a stream. He saw his own reflection. He saw another dog with the same piece of meat. He wanted to get it. He barked. The piece of meat fell into the water. So this one is the another example, so that you can understand how to write a story. Here you will get the outlines, and now I am going to show how you need to write the story following the or developing the following outlines. So before writing the story, you need to first of all read the outlines or the hints very carefully. Then you need to finalize your character. So here your main character is the dog, and first of all you need to also suggest, or you need to write your title. So after reading the outlines, we can see that the title can be here either the dog and the shadow or the greedy dog. So let's just start reading the story. Once upon a time, there was a greedy dog. One day, he stole a piece of meat out of a butcher's shop. He wanted to eat it in a quiet and safe place without interruption. This one is your introduction. Holding the piece of meat in his mouth, he began to run. Now the tension started, that what will happen next. He was looking for a safe place and finally came to a clear stream. There was a narrow wooden bridge over the stream. The dog had to cross the stream to go over to the other side. While crossing the stream across the bridge, he looked below and saw his own reflection in the water. So you can understand that after introduction, what happened? And now the other part, he misunderstood it for another dog. So now the problem or the situation reaches to the climax point. That what will happen next? What will the dog do? He misunderstood it for another dog with a piece of meat in its mouth. How? That fellow has a piece of meat in his mouth too, he said to himself. And as he was a greedy dog, being a greedy dog, he made up his mind to get that piece too. He opened his mouth to snarl and made a grasp for the other dog's meat. So he wanted to snatch or snarl that piece of meat also. And so finally his own piece of meat fell down into the water and was lost. So what can be the moral now? Grasp at the shadow and lose the substance, or try to be content with what you have, or grasp all, lose all, or excessive greed brings one to grief. Here I have written so many morals, but you need to write only one moral that will be suitable as per your story, and only one title. And this one is for your homework. You need to build a readable story out of this outlines. So outlines: King Bruce of Scotland had been defeated in several battles. He sought refuge in a cave. He sought refuge in a cave and thought of giving up his attempt. Suddenly he saw a spider trying the ceiling by climbing up a thin thread of cobweb. The spider went up a few yards and then fall down. This happened 9 times. At the 10th attempt, the spider succeeded. The spiders, it will be spider, not slider, it will be spider, S-P-I-D-E-R. The spider's example encouraged the king. He tried again and won the war. Students, it will be spider, S-P-I-D-E-R. Spider's example. Don't worry, students, you will get the same thing in the form of in the format of a PDF file, and that PDF file will be available in your school website tomorrow. So you need not to be worried about that fact. You will get everything in the format of in the form of a PDF file in your school website. So you need to download that PDF file and you will write the final one, the final outlines or the final question, and you need to make a story or you need to build a story. So thanks to all of you. Please stay at home and stay happy. Thank you. Read carefully.